Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our dialogue session this evening titled Time for Change. My name is Joshua, a Year 3 student from SMU's Yong Pang House School of Law, and I'm going to be your host and your moderator this evening. So, as I was saying earlier, I'm so glad that I see so many of youths from Singapore right here today with me, and I'm hoping, you guys will have plenty of questions for Mr. George Goh later on. So, right now, here's a little rundown of the program that we have for this evening. Can I get the next slide, please? Okay, so after this, Mr. George Goh is going to give a little speech, and after that, we're going to have a really short Q&A session. If there are any further questions for him after this, of course, you can ask him at the end of the session during the music and mingling time later on. After that, there will be a special unveiling that he and his media team have been working hard to put together. And at 9:55 to 7:55 to 8 p.m., he's going to be introducing his new book, Lights on Istana, to shed a spotlight on what exactly the role of the presidency does. So, much has been said and shared about Mr. Goh. A quick Google search is going to reveal that at the age of 16, he actually dropped out of school to apprentice at a shoe factory. A few years later, he decided, he wants more, and he started his own shoe manufacturing shop called, bear with me on this one, the Classy Shoe Manufacturer. And 14 years later, when he was 36, this company was actually worth 120 million. At 30, he co-founded OCI International Limited with his brothers. And many years later, what we know this company for is, of course, bringing in Harvey Norman, the Harvey Norman brand of stores into Singapore. But of course, aside from, can I get the next slide, please? Aside from, of course, him being a Singaporean philanthropist, entrepreneur, and former diplomat, he's actually also an opera singer, so maybe later on we can get him to belt out some tunes. But enough from me for now. With that, let's put our hands together to invite Mr. George Goh.
Okay, good evening, welcome. When I look at all the young people here, remind me I'm 36, not 63. All right, this is good. All right, we talk about the young people now. Of course, my 4 children, most of the people now realize who is my 4 children now. Their age is between 19 to 35. So these are the young generations. I will classify these people in the future as the leader of Singapore, right? So people like us going to be the history very soon, but the people like the young people is our future. And of course, I hope the young people will look at this land is the land of hope, and also this is the land is belong to you. So as the leaders in Singapore, of course, our job is to make sure when you pass down to the young generation, make sure it's in good shape. Because I want you to call this place is your home. This is something I love to pass on. Now, I would like to share a bit on the private sector. I'm from a private sector. Historically, private sector, I think, if we look at in 1993 till now, there's about 30 years now, there's 4 presidents, all from the policy maker, or you can call themselves, from the public office. I think this is the only time the private sector is coming forward. This is a very difficult decision I have to make. Most of the people will say, George, you are a bit crazy to come and take on the big machinery. It's a very difficult one. Private sector, you have to be on your own. I'm very fortunate, I have a very good team is with me. All the young people, wonderful people, they love Singapore. Because of that, I have confidence to carry on. But let me share with you, sometimes it's very difficult because when you do not have a big, as I say, the machinery with you, it's very difficult. And sometimes can be quite lonely as well. But anyway, this is the private sector. We have to be on our own. Of course, we will do our best and continue in the next maybe 10 to 20 days, depend on the COE, announced on maybe on the 22nd. Why I'm step forward, right? This is a very interesting question most of the people. Now, for people in private sector to step forward, especially, this is a big change. It's not easy. Now, you need to break the chain is a very difficult one. And why I say that? Because private sectors have a different set of experience from the public sector. But for us to break through is a miracle. As I mentioned, there's nobody endorse you in private sector. When there's nobody endorse you, you have to walk alone. You have to carry on with whatever knowledge you have. Fortunately enough, I have 41 years as an entrepreneur. We can take on the establishment. Now, why I'm continue to, these 6 years is a very hard year for me, 6 years, from 2017 to now. Now, I will think of my people, because if you look at my background by now, more or less, I'm from an ordinary family. I'm not from the elite group. Of course, I'm not a scholar as well. But when I look at the people on the ground here, of course, I have to continue to fight on. I always call myself, I'm from the people and for the people. So this is the point I like to serve my people, hopefully in the next 6 years. These 6 years have been very difficult for me, because the criteria for a private sector is not easy. From 100 million equity to 500, most of the people now can memorize this thing now. Not only the 500 million, you got to make sure it's profitable. Something was very interesting the last couple of days. In my mind was thinking about the profit of 3 years. In certain occasion, I was talking about good enough to have the 3 years. But suddenly, there's something say that, Mr. George Goh, it's not a case of 3 years. When you become the chief executive of the organization, that year you start. So when I look at my organization, right, some are 21 years, some are 17 years. They mean to say, in the 21 year, I run as a chief executive, I have to make sure the organization is profitable. Wow, this is something very, very, very hard. But anyway, we still had to carry on and move it. So I just came back from my office not long ago to look at the number with the auditor and so on. I'm very proud and I'm very confident I can pull through. All right? Now, why I mentioned many times about independence. Now, independence is a very important for the presidential elections. Now, why I mention this? When you look at, most of the people talk about the two key concepts, right? Now, one key, of course, is held by the Prime Minister. The other key is by the President. Now, the President has a second key, especially when you come to the safeguard the reserve, and also the key appointment. Now, as we now more or less figured it out, there are 4 candidates now. Now, some candidate, you can look at it, their history and their background from the public sector. Now, from public sector, of course, their experience in the public office, right? I'm from the private sector. I can say the only one in the private sector. Now, the difference between the two groups, as I just now mentioned, right? The private sectors have a different set of experience, especially because private sector, when they look at the key appointment, quite different from the public sector people. Now, the private sector people, when they look at the key appointment, they will say that, is there a conflict of interest? Because these are the very key appointments in this country, like Chief Judge and Supreme Court Judge, Chief of Police and all this. This position include the Master CEO and so on. So many positions need approval by the President. Now you must have an experience to know who are the people who have ability as well, also at the same time, make sure there is no conflicts of interest. Now, if you have if you look at the past presidents, we have 4 presidents now so far in 1993 to now, close to 30 years. But all the past president is from the public office or policy maker. At the moment, there's none from the private sector. So this one make me a very heavy burden because where is the private sector people? When you look at the Constitution amended in 2016, in fact, impossible for private sector people to come forward. Even if you have a 500 million, you still have to make sure the profitability, as I just mentioned. Not only that, you also have to worry about quite a number of things before you come forward. That's why most of the people say, George, do you need to reconsider your positions? Because if you have a 500 million, so why you need to step forward for the country? You most likely can settle down in a very good life in Hawaii and so on, right? Now, as I mentioned to many people, if there's no private sector people come forward, the country will never move forward. It will remain the same, always the policy maker or the people from the public service will continue. So this is why I prepared to come forward. Of course, private sector have another advantage. I want to just share 1 or 2 points on this one. You see, the private sector look at the money is quite different because especially entrepreneur, there are 2 sets. One is the professional manager, one is the entrepreneur. Now for us, when we look at the money itself, we look at, because this is like our money, right? So no wastage. We have to make sure every single cent we are protecting it. Because it's very difficult, because if we don't make it happen, the company, there are 2 possibilities, right? So we can be removed by the board, or the other one, the company will go down. Now, this is not something the public sector have an issue because the fund was basically from the Ministry of Finance. They just have to make sure, manage the set of the fund. Private sector is different. You have to make the money to continue, and then you have to pay dividend to the shareholder. There are 2 sets of knowledge from here, all right? Now, why another point I need to highlight is the public sectors got a very good advantage is, of course, people obey them, and sometimes they do a system called top-down. But for private sector, you cannot. You need to build the trust. Why I say the private sector need the trust? Because private sector, you have a customer with you, you got a vendor with you. Now, you're going to make sure the way you set up your organization itself, in which country, you're going to make sure you're familiar the country, the policy, the country politics, the country, the system, how they govern, especially in economy. So it's a different set of knowledge between the 2. Of course, if I look at the public, as I mentioned, right, the public sector itself, they have a full strength of staff. Of course, for them to easy to maneuver, of course, they have to make sure it's a top-down concept. So if they can manage the part, they say this is a good manager, right? Different from the private sector. Now, for me, of course, I'm further from the government. Why I'm saying I'm further from the government, I did mention about there are 4 things here. Number 1, I did not participate in any political party, whether a ruling party or oppositions, no alliance with. The second part of it, as I also mentioned, I'm not involved in any activity or grassroots leadership or advisor role. The third one, I also mentioned about this, I do not receive any fund from sovereign fund. You know, sometimes sovereign fund can invest in the private sectors. So my organization in the past 41 years, I do not have such a fund was invested by sovereign fund. The last one, you know, some of the GIC, so-called government-linked corporation, you can be also sitting at the board, as the directors, some advisor, and so on. So in the past 41 years, my focus point is not in this area. That's why, for me, I have an advantage of when I come to the reserve, when I come to the key appointment, I don't have to worry too much about my baggage or my colleague. Of course, I also not a policy maker, so when I make a decision, I will make a right judgment, what is right for me, what is right for the country, what is right for the people. I will work on that basis. So it's a different perspective. I hope I can give you some overall. Maybe from the Q&A, then I would like to respond further.
Hey, thank you for that, Mr. George Goh. So we are going to move to the Q&A section, and the question that will be, we hope to get questions from you about who Mr. George Goh truly is. But, just to kick us off, I think I've got a question for you first. What is your idea of the presidency? What, to you, does the role of the presidency mean? What will you have to do as a president?
When old days, when I always heard about this story about presidents shake hands, I also believe maybe this should be the way, because this is already planted in our mind. President do not have any power. President most likely ceremonial role and so on. In 2021, I have a good chance to meet up with one professor, the Constitution professor. I have a lesson with him close to 1 year. Then I look at the whole Constitution, especially for president role. There's quite a lot of heavy responsibility. It's not so simple as shake hand. If you're shaking hand, of course, they wouldn't pay the kind of salary as the president. I don't know, how much the president pay. I hope you do some research. It is quite a big amount for the president. So I don't believe with the kind of amount you only need to do shake hand or attend some function. I don't believe that. When I look at the Constitution, in summary, I just explained to the young people here, there's only 3 things you need to remember, right? Number 1, there's a Constitution role. Make sure the president understands the Constitution, what is written there. There are quite a number of jobs need to be done under the Constitution, especially the 2 key ones. One is the reserve. The other one, of course, is the key appointment, okay? The second role, of course, is ceremonial role. I think that one most likely people can do it because this is all set ready for the president, whether it's local or overseas. It's quite standard, this one. The third one is very important, is the community role. President can play a very important role in this role because this role, you can, I give one example, like President Challenge is a good example. President Challenge, of course, yearly we just raised about 13 to 14 million. There's not a lot of money now for the needy. Our community, we are aging community. A lot of people is just left behind now. Especially now, high cost and all these things, more people are suffering. Now, President Challenge, of course, the fund we raise, most likely we give to the top 10% NPO. NPO means non-profit organization. Singapore total is about 290 NPO, around this figure. Now, 90% there's not much funding by institution or any businessman or the rich people. Because all the 90%, these people have a lot of heart for the nation, for the people. But because sometimes they do not have tax deductible and so on, so they cannot be funded very, very well. So my dream, of course this is the proposal I would like to bring forward, see whether we can expand the President Challenge to a figure that is a slightly bigger figure. My hope, of course, I can build up the Singapore Foundation using this one to fill out a big one, principal protect, and of course the investment amount, maybe 5-6% and so on. So you have maybe 3 to 4 times of the current amount. Then you can support all the NPO move forward, the small one, empower them. They can do a better job than the president because they know the ground, they know what is happening on the ground. So this is something in my mind I would like to do. So you just have to remember there are 3 roles: Constitution role, of course the other one is ceremonial role, and community. But community role, we can expand a lot, but I don't think I want to take this time to explain all one by one. I'll just give you one example.
So we are not just looking at, National Day that just passed to, greet the contingents, shake hands with high-profile people, but definitely also safeguarding the key appointments in Singapore, such as the Chief Justice, the Auditor General, and such key roles in Singapore. And of course, expanding on his role as, part of as a community leader. So right now, I want to open up the floor to all our young people in the audience. What do you want to know about Mr. George Goh over here? What burning questions?
Joshua, don't forget that young people worry about HDB. The HDB and CPF, the key appointment, the president also have the role to play on that. So this is very important for our young people, especially for BTO, right? Important. So the appointment, this is one part of it, the president have the role to it.
Yeah, definitely hitting a sore spot for me. HDB, not going well for me. Okay, anyway, back to opening the floor to everyone here. So, do you have any burning questions for Mr. George Goh here? If you do, I invite you to stand and ask your question. Anyone in the audience? Yes, sir. I see one over there in the corner. What do you think of Mr. Ong Teng Cheong?
Are you Mr. Ong, a relative? No, okay. You should be very happy. Ong Teng Cheong is a very special man. I want to give you a bit on Ong Teng Cheong. People try to claim sometimes to say, I look like, not look like lah. I'm quite close to Ong Teng Cheong. No way, let me tell you why. Ong Teng Cheong is very special. He was a civil servant for a couple of years, number one. A few years. Then he decided to say that, I think in 1971, he said, I want to be an entrepreneur. Set up the architect firm from scratch with a wife. So in 1971, that's a long time ago, right? So he learned the entrepreneur. He set up his firm, I think about 5 to 6 years, fairly successful. Why I say fairly successful, Ong Teng Cheong's company still exists today. The son, the generation still take over. Mean the foundation lay must be quite good. He had very good private experience, private sector experience during the setup of the Ong and Ong. Then after that, of course, he was invited to work as a parliamentarian, followed by become the minister and deputy prime minister. Now, the combine between the two, when he was elected a president in 1993, his brain power is different from any of them say that they claim they're similar to Ong Teng Cheong. Even I may not even want to say that. Ong Teng Cheong have both sides in his brain in the early day because he's an entrepreneur. He understands the private sector, how it works. This is very important. You must know the system of the private sector. You have to be on your own. If you cannot make it happen, you're bankrupt. It's very clear. You can't do anything. All right? He had to make sure his private sector is successful. Now, he got the other part, of course, he's a policy maker and parliamentarian. But combine the two, it's very powerful as a president. Because he understands how the private sector thinks, he also understands how the public sector thinks. This is quite different. So, I can't say anybody is near to Ong Teng Cheong. Okay, in short, he's a nice man, brother. Nice man.
So I think, having a nice balance from both private sector and public sector is always going to be useful. But I think, we have had a string of people from the public sector already. Perhaps it's time for some change. Okay, we've got time for one more question right now. Anyone else in the audience has any questions? The gentleman in the hat over there.
Try. I try.
So, over the weekend, I was spending some time with my grandparents, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on what do you think are some things that the Singapore government or Singapore can do as a whole to better support our elderly citizens, especially because of our aging population?
Yeah, good question. The aging populations, of course, I belong to this already, right? 63, you're part of this. Same like the grandma or the fathers. Now, this is the truth. Our population about 5.8 million. The aging populations, of course, is increasing now. Now, the worst thing is because the cost, the inflations make the old people or the senior people more difficult now. Why I say that? Because I travel close to 48 hawker center and a wet market. So of course, when you walk around the ground, you hear what the people talking about their life, right? All these people are very ordinary people. The price of the food or the price of wet markets, on the meat and so on, everything is go up. Now for them, because they don't have much income, not much saving, but to them, when the prices increase, it's very taxing for them. Now this society, especially for Singapore, the rich one is very rich, we all know. There's a group very richer. Now how can, as a president, how can we pull this businessman who so-called are very successful in the land, and they make a lot of money, and come together with the president, see whether we can work in the community, as I mentioned just now, to see whether we can put them together, to let them see that Singapore is a lot of needed family. Now, if we can do that, then it's very powerful. It depend on just only 13 to 15 million I just mentioned about those small, the president challenge itself is not good, not enough. By the current situation, I think you need to make it bigger, the amount. The only way to do it is to bring these people together. So I'm very confident Singaporean, this group of people, this institution, they have the heart for Singapore because they make a lot of money, especially in bank sector. The 3 bank itself is making more than 20 billion in a year. So where are they now, these people? I think we have to ask them to do more for the community. So if I'm, as a president, of course, I will do my best, invite them for more coffee and tea. If they don't agree, still invite them more coffee and tea. If they still don't agree, go to the house and have more coffee and tea, you know. I think this community need to bring this group of people to come together. Then our needy will not left behind too much. We may not solve completely. I think as a president, you have some vision to doing this part. Because part of the constitution law, this is the responsibility. Don't just go and just become the guest of honor. I mean, you can be a guest of honor. At the end of the day, the society still remain the same. I'm not saying no good to be the guest of honor, but I think we can balance between the two.
So, you know, bringing together the private sector to come in and help our aging population as well.
Yes.
So, Mr. Goh, I think there's something special that you're here to unveil today, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear it.
Many people are saying, George, what are you doing, you know? So when are you going to show us your slogan? You don't talk much about the slogan, but I like to do, you know, whatever I'm doing, I want to do it one step at a time, one step at a time. So today, of course, I love to share with the young people, especially the young people. Why we share this to the young people, okay, when you see our slogan, of course, this is to share the platform, we call it share the platform. I'm not sure it's on the board, you know. Okay. The young men, young ladies, please give me some comment whether we are right. We choose the platform. See whether this is something.
Actually, you know what, since we are waiting, why don't you guys shout out some slogans? What do you think could be a possible slogan
Good idea.
for Mr. George Goh's campaign?
Yeah.
Just shout it out and let's see what we have. Any guesses? Any takers? No? Okay, I can't participate in this because I have the slides in hand, so if I could, I would. Anyone has any guesses? What would be a good slogan for his campaign? Okay, before the slide comes on. I don't think you guys can see it yet. Any guesses? No? Really? Again? Time for change. A time for change.
Good one.
Not bad, not bad. SMU just had our birthday celebration in Jan, and the slogan then was a time for everything. So right now, I think, a time for change sounds quite appropriate to me. Okay, are we getting it back on? Okay, hold on. Any other guesses? Any other guesses? Oh, you're quite close, by the way. You're quite relatively close, lah. You got 2 words right. Any other guesses before you move on? Go for change.
My surname, I like it. Go.
Very punny of you.
Yeah.
Okay, the slides are back on. So, would you like to unveil what is your platform for your campaign?
All right. Can we together? One chance for change. Okay, let me explain to you why this is important. As I mentioned, in history of 30 years, there's 0 candidate come forward from private sector. So this is the moment, I hope from today onward, there will be more candidates from private sector come forward, be the candidate. I know it's very difficult. When I decide to come forward, I discuss with my wife, my family. I know how difficult, especially private sector when you're not endorsed by the establishment. This is very hard. I can tell you, very hard. I have many friends, of course, they are billions of dollars. They have a lot of consideration because it's not easy for them and the family to come forward, especially in private sectors. So this is the only chance after 30 years I'm announcing for a private candidate. I hope you give me a support. It's very difficult for private sector, but if you stand together with me, we will be strong. Of course, I hope to bring the different perspective into the government, into the president's office. Hope that something will be changed. There's a few ideas I need to do in the next 6 years. I hope I can one after another one. As an entrepreneur, you know I run 7 listed companies, billions of dollars. When I started, I only got 5,000. Young men, think about that. 41 years ago, me and my brothers, we only have $5,000. You have more than me now. So think about that. In 41 years today, we run a $1 billion organization, and we have an equity more than 500 million. Of course, now is the time. I love this land because this land has given me and my family a lot. I want to serve this community. This is something in my heart. So I hope this is one chance for change.
To the youth out there, can we give him a round of applause? I don't know whether you guys realize that this really is a moment in history for all of us here. I think for all the other candidates, they're going to announce at a press conference, an interview. But for Mr. George Goh over here, he specifically chose to unveil this today in the presence of youth because we are indeed the future of Singapore. So once again, can we give it up for Mr. George Goh?
My dear friends, the young generation, the change is in your hand. We are going to be the history. You must think for yourself and your children. We can make history if we come together. Don't give up. You know, I'm very sad. Sometimes I was talking to the young, especially when I was in mentorship. They say, George Goh, we want to go. I say, where you want to go? I want to migrate to overseas. I say, why? He said, this place, everything we cannot afford. It's very sad as an entrepreneur. That's why I work so hard. From SMU to NTU to NUS, SBF, even a small group of people, young one, call me, George Goh, I want to meet you. Can you share with us, entrepreneur? I go. It's not by thousand, sometimes 10 people, sometimes 5 people. I ever mentor 2 people. When I mentor 2 and 200, it's the same. I say, there is always a hope. Look at me. I have no education. My family do not have money. I'm not a scholar. Definitely, I'm not a scholar. I'm not the elite groups. But I can make it. Because this land has given me a lot. So when I share with all these young people, I say, don't go. This place is the place of hope. So I hope if I become a president, there are more entrepreneurship, mentorship. Hopefully I can bring more institutions, individuals, more businessmen, come and share with the young people. This is our hope. So the history, I hope, is belong to you. And the future is belong to you. Please hold it. Don't give up, more important, okay? Regardless what is going on, don't give up.
Mr. George Goh, you know, you say that you hope that we will all stay. And I think, as you said, many people have told me, you know, there's no future in Singapore. After I'm done with my studies here, I should move on. But as my friend over there, my fellow youth over there, you know, he said, it's time for change. So I think, you know, I just want to pose this question to you. What kind of change, and how will you go about bringing this change?
Of course, the bigger change you can do, you bring the private sector into Istana. You need to do that. Because not all the talented people are in public sector. Not at all. No. There are many, many talented people. I saw Google, Jack Ma, Lee Ka-shin, Robert Goh. There are many, many talented people. Artificial intelligence company. When I travel all over the world, I can see. Private sector have many talented people. They put their priority in innovation, technology. Of course, we talk about robotic and blah, 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 you know. So they like to do this, right? But not many people come forward. But when there is someone prepared to come forward to serve the nation from private sector, the support must be from you. If not, they will never do that. They say, it's very difficult. The road is so tough. I know. Because I've been doing this for the last 6 years, I know how difficult the journey. It's a tough journey. You not only worry about your 500 million, you have to worry about many multiple things. So, I hope this is one of the change we must make it happen. As I also mentioned, there are other initiatives like President Challenge, the Youth Entrepreneur Mentorship. There are multiple art, sport, and music. You know, music is in my heart, especially in art. I think the local, many talented young art and music, we have to do something. As a president, you can do. This is part of the president can do. We need to promote the young artists, the Singaporean artists, the musicians, Singaporean musicians. There are many areas in this area as the president can champion. So let's work together, okay? there's a few things here I would like to just quickly go through because there's quite a number. First, make the office more transparency, more accountability. Because president office is important, you have to make sure that it's more transparent and more accountability. But there's a few areas written here. Unfortunately, we didn't have the slide to show it. Now, for example, bill to sign. You know, president have to sign a lot of bill, right? But citizens may not know what is going on. I would like to be more transparent in this. Second is the key appointment like CPIB, Temasek, HDB, CPF, and all this, right? Third, the number of the meeting with my CPA, because there's a lot of bill need to be passed. Diplomatic visit, I will let you know what are the things we're going to do in overseas and so on. President's speeches, I think you know certain occasion, fundraising activity. But this is very important. I would like to do it yearly, more like in commercial term, it's like the annual report. To let the people know, actually presidents over the year, this whole year, what he have done in this area. It's good to share with Singaporean what the president role and what president had done during the whole year period. I would like to get your feedback, young people. If you do have the first year, if we're not doing great, we can do it, we can improve the second years. Okay, the second part is open heart, more inclusive society. Help those who left behind, this one I just mentioned. Expand the current scheme. Bring more businessmen and tauke to come together to see whether we can form a Singapore foundation. Support the small NPO. This one that I just mentioned. This group of people need a lot of help. The third, of course, is more on the culture. As I mentioned, people culture concert, mentorship conference, entrepreneurship challenge, bring music into the heartland and all this. Now, these are the areas President can work on. But I cannot list out all the detail, but I can give you some idea. I don't want to go into the office and no idea. As an entrepreneur, I tell you there's one unique about entrepreneur. Because our mind is very active, we will find a way to overcome the difficulty. We will find the solution to work with people. We will find a way to how to get funding. All right, if I do a charity show by president, make sure that we're champion certain things that they can help the needy. The mindset of us are quite different. We always find the angle for people to come together and work together. And you know, as an entrepreneur, you have these things called charisma. People like you. When you talk to the people, people listen to you. Especially my background, there's something I know people will like it. Because they say, George, you are T-boy, you know. You eat at a hawker center. You are just an ordinary people. They don't feel when you are in the elite group, people will just talk to you. When you talk something is too high level, people will not understand you. Even they want to work with you, they don't understand you how to work with you. They cannot. No way you can do that. So I hope with my ordinary background, I achieved my entire career. Of course, when I try to convince all these tauke or institution, I hope I have more power to do so. So these are the few things I like to do. More detail I will open in the future. Thank you.
And so, I think with that, perhaps, we'll see a little less nepotism in all the higher roles and appointments. Before I move there. Okay, so, with that, perhaps less nepotism in all the higher positions. And, addressing my friend over there, the one wearing the cap, he has just mentioned, let's leave no one behind, including our elderly population. And, of course, to all those out there who are interested in the arts, in sports, You know, perhaps we can really go and pursue all this. You know, we won't have any more reports of our young lions saying that they weren't properly supported after the Youth Olympic Games. We won't have any more like Joseph Schoolings, who, you know, they had to rely on just their parents. Perhaps our nation would then be able to support them. But, you know, let's take a look at what the vision Mr. George Goh has right now.
Singapore is a land of hope, people of strength. I hope my life story can repeat in everybody's life. Most important, the young people, don't give up. This is the hope and the strength I want to bring to the presidency. So my dear young people here, I do not know your current situation because I do not have a chance to talk to everyone. Come and talk to me. Approach my team. I love to share with you. We can overcome together. My brothers and I, in this island for the last 50 years. When I was a boy, I landed here. I know how difficult when your family have no money. I know how difficult when you do not have capital. You say, I have idea, I want to become a good entrepreneur, but I just don't have money. Come and talk to me. I'm prepared to share my life story as an entrepreneur, how I have a little money, I can overcome billions of organization. I have one company I invested $6 million. Within 1 year, I put it into capital market, worth 116 million. Myself and my partner, we all work very hard, our brother. In 11 years, the company is 1.9 billion. You will ask me 50 years ago, can I imagine about billions? No, I don't even understand. Maybe in rupiah, yeah? Not possible at all. But it's happened. 2004, I went into the water treatment company. In 2015, there was a takeover worth 1.9 billion. Now, I will share with you not only the big number, but I can also share with you if you're interested to sell durian. I have a durian story to tell you how to become the successful Aseng in Ghim Moh selling durian. I can give you some tips, okay? If you say, George, you're talking about billion, we don't understand you. Maybe you talk about the small business we can understand. Don't worry, come and see me, okay? I have one friend open a barber shop, salon. We start at the same year, 1982. Do you know what happened to this couple? Both husband and wife, they asset, if I'm not wrong, easily 500 million. Do you believe a salon can make this? It's happened. I can bring him to talk to you. Why with the small little money? In 1982, I was a customer, $10. And husband and wife is very successful. I can share with you many entrepreneurs. They are very successful. Don't give up, okay? This place is the place of hope. Talk to the right mentor, you will get your answer.
So, Singapore, a land of hope and people of strength. Can we give Mr. George Goh a huge round of applause? Now, up next, we've got something for everyone over here, and we've got two versions. We have his new book, Lights on the Istana. For those of you who want the e-copy, of course, you can scan the QR code shown on screen right now. If not, later on, we'll be giving out the book as a door gift. And of course, with a physical book, if you guys want to get his signature, please do so during the mingling session. Mr. Goh, is there anything you want to say about this book?
This book is my team. I do it from a day to night for this book. They are the writer. They are the producer. And of course, they also study law. Make sure don't infringe or whatever it is. They are very talented people. They put the heart, they say, we must let the people know about president's role and so on. We don't want to disgrace the president as a shake hand president. They say no. We are the only candidate very open. Even I am not in the office, it's fine. But we have advocates, the people, the presidential law is written in the book. Please keep it with my signature. My signature values some money, okay? Just come forward and get me to sign for it, okay? Because I don't autograph for many things in my life. Maybe this, how many books we have? Maybe 100, 100, okay? Future, you can go for auction when I pass away, okay? Because I don't autograph like the footballers or anybody, right? So please, before I become a president, let me author. After I become president, not so easy to author, right? Autograph. So please, take the book and keep it, okay? All the hard work. Can we say thank you to my staff and all the people who... They have the heart for the people, not only me. Because of them, I work from morning to night. I never feel tired. This is my number 7 session from morning to now. Because my people have prepared all this for me, so I will just continue to do and do same day. I forget the man always run for day and night. I forget the name. Rainforest, right? Forrest Gump. So now I'm about similar to Forrest Gump. Need to run another 18 days. Please help me, all right? Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goh, and of course to his media team as well. So let's take a look at the video that we were unable to show. Cannot? Okay. So if you want to check out the video of what he does in his life, do follow us on his social medias. What do we have here? We've got him on YouTube, and you can watch this documentary, which is titled A Time for Change, as well as all his other social media platforms. We still have that slide. Okay, yeah, so follow on all the typical social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, at georgegohchingwah, and Twitter at georgegohchingwah. Okay, so can I just trouble everyone, whip out your mobile phones and just follow him on all these platforms. And with that, we have come to the end of the first part of our session. After this, we're going to have a short little mingling session with Mr. George Goh. So thank you everybody for your attention, and I will see you guys around the area.
I wanted to say about the book one more. There's one famous lady was in the journalist industry. It's a legend. It's called Bertha. She's around. So she's a legend. You better get the book and get her to sign better rather than me, okay? She put up all this content day and night, okay? Like the Batman, sometimes I saw she just loved to do this for you. She said, George, we had to do it for the young generation. She spent a lot of time to write this. Please, at least read page 1, okay? Don't keep it, okay? At least read some of it. It's quite good. So we must say special thanks to Bertha and the team.
So of course, you can follow Ms. Bertha Hansen on her Facebook, where she's also known as Mistress of the Wall, Wielder of the Axe.
Yeah.
So with that, we have come to the end, and let's start our mingling and music session right now.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you.